because he was the boss, and I just had to learn ways to communicate with him and go work through all the ways that he operated without the right to contest or argue or complain. So I've said that was probably a great foundation for our marriage, that we continued into marriage. No, I mean, Bob is amazing. He's a problem solver, which he's mentioned, and he's got boundless energy, which is interesting. He loves to plan, which has been challenging in COVID because nobody could plan anything. And I've often said we moved a few years ago from the UK. Our main residence is actually Portugal. And I said to Bob, he got everything worked out on why this was good for tax and for finance and all the logistics and everything. And it was a great idea. But he had no idea how it was going to make him feel. And so my job really was to work out how do we settle into a new country that we know, where we know not one person. It's a completely different culture, it's a completely different environment, different language, and this is going to cause a potential concern for him unless I do something to try and make this easier as a transition. So I think we complement each other really well. Similarly, I could say he was a naughty boy growing up, and I'd say I was quite a good girl. I was brought up in a Christian home. I went to church 7 times each week, and from the year dot, I just grew up in a full Christian home. And from when I was 11 years old, I was involved in the children's work, and I used to help in the worship. And then when I was 14, I was teaching the 11-year-olds. And so in every way, I lived a life of sold out and just involved in the church. My main impact with God was when I was 14. And I remember going away to a youth camp at the time, and one of the speakers spoke from the Apostle Paul, almost like they asked him a question towards the end of his life. Paul, what is your ambition? And for me as a young person, I thought, actually ambition is an important thing. I'm 14 years old. And the Apostle Paul said, towards the end of his life, this great apostle who we all look at and revere, and he said, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. And I just had a real encounter with God. I'd become a Christian when I was 4 or 5 and so on, but that for me was a real encounter with God, where I said, that's my ambition. I want to know God. I want to know what that is, and that's been really the testimony of my life, and through